Today in this quick answer, Robert asks, hey, I watched your video about making green and black background videos transparent, but what about something hard like Turkey Tomfoolery? How can you do that? Well, you certainly can. It is a bit of a challenge though, so let's go ahead and get started on this quick answer. And I'm going to go ahead and open up HitFilm Express. And I'm going to click on the new button. And I don't really care what these settings are because we're going to change it to whatever video we're editing. And in this case, it's going to be Turkey Tomfoolery. All right, now we're ready to go. Make sure you're over here on the Media tab, and we're going to click on the Import button. And I'm going to bring in a couple things here. We're going to bring in Turkey Tomfoolery, and I'm also going to bring in some miscellaneous fall-looking photo here, just so we can see how transparent Tom is, basically. And so I'm going to hold down my Shift key here and select both of those, and click Open. And now we got both of them inside HitFilm Express. So let's go ahead and add another video layer here. So I'm going to go over here to Video 1, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Insert Track. And so now we got Video 1 and Video 2, and I'm going to move between Video 1 and Video 2 and move that down a little bit so we got a little bit more room to work with there. So now we're ready to go. Alright, so let's go ahead and throw on Turkey Tomfoolery, and we're going to put that into Video 2. Again, make sure you snap it to the front as usual. It says, hey, do you want to change the video you're making to match the clip that you brought in Turkey Tomfoolery? I'm going to say yes. So whatever Turkey Tomfoolery settings are, that's what we're going to use. So that's great. And I'm going to go up here and grab this little bar and drag it across so we can kind of see Tom here. He's doing all sorts of silly things here. Let's go ahead and bring in our picture. So I'm just going to right click on that. I'm going to drag it into Video 1 here and drop it down. And then as usual, we're going to come over here to the left side, hold down the left mouse button and drag that out to match the length of the Turkey Tomfoolery video. So now we should be able to see the this picture here, the fall picture behind Tom, but we can't so far. Now what I said in the other video is, hey, you can use blend modes, you can use demult, but the problem with that is that they make Tom transparent. All three of those modes just doesn't work for Tom. Tom's really challenging because Tom has actually a lot of dark colors in his features. And his tail's almost black, his eyes are black, he's got shadows underneath him, and so it's really quite a challenge because when it tries to make the black transparent, it oftentimes is going to pick something close to black and make that transparent too. So it just doesn't work for Tom. At least those techniques don't. So let's go ahead and put on a couple of techniques that do work better for Tom. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab Tom over here again, Turkey Tomfoolery, and I'm going to drag it onto this video too, and I'm going to set it right next to the first video, and again I'm going to snap it to the other one there, and I'm going to extend out my picture even more. So now we got two copies of Tom that we could work on, because there's two techniques that you can use, and depending on the video that you have, they give different results, and so you might, one might work better for one video than the other. So let's go ahead and get started, and what we're going to do, we're going to apply an effect to our Turkey Tomfoolery over here. So let's come over here to effects, and what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and to keying, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open this guy up because we kind of concentrate on things like demult and things like that, but there's a whole bunch of other keying tools basically down here. And the very first one that I want to talk about is the Luminance Key. So we're going to hold down our left mouse button and we're going to drag that over Tom and let go. Oh, well, Tom disappeared, but we can see the photo behind, so that's kind of a mixed bag there. But you notice it's moved us over to the Control tab, and it's highlighted our new effect here, which is the Luminance Key. And it's already set to key out darker, which is good because that's exactly what we want. We want that black background of Tom to go away. Well, what we need to do is we need to come over here to the threshold, and we need to crank that sucker down. We need to crank it way down. And you notice as we do, Tom keeps coming back more and more. And so there we've set it. It looks pretty good right there. But, you know, as we kind of scrub through, you know, I can see some transparency here on Tom. It really shouldn't be transparent. You know, keep on going here. And one trick that you could use, you can see a little bit there, so you can see through part of Tom that you should be able to see through. So we need to crank that threshold on down even lower. And quite frankly, I find with Tom, 0.01, or I'm sorry, 0.01 is the correct value. In fact, I'm going to have to type it in because it's too pesky to try and drag over there. So I'm going to do 0.01, hit enter. And that's pretty close. We may have a little bit of transparency there. And one way that you can tell really easily too is you can come over here to where it says View Matte. And if you click on that, it's basically going to show you everything in white of Tom will be seen. And everything in black of Tom will be transparent. And you notice we still got a little bit of transparency there. And if you know, as we scrub through the video, we can see we've got these little holes in Tom that really shouldn't be there. Now, what's acceptable to you is, you know, just kind of up to you to decide, basically. If you have a mostly darker background, that may be fine. You can even try to, you know, crank this down all the way to 0. If you do that, by the way, notice how the picture gets darker. And so that's kind of the trade-off there. So I'm going to set this back to 0.01 and hit enter. So we got a light background, and Tom is mostly there with a few holes in him that he shouldn't have. All right. So that's the first one. That is the Luminance Key. And by the way, you can come down here and play with things like intensity and lightness and luminance. Those are the 3 different modes it's got. I find they pretty much for Tom work all about the same, but on another video you might change those and it may make a world of difference for you. So, you know, make sure you kind of play around with these settings for whatever video you're trying to do. Well, that's the first attempt, and it's not too bad. You know, the human eye just kind of misses a lot of times these, you know, little gaps in transparency, quite frankly. So, you know, Tom's looking pretty good over here. He's not looking too bad, at least. That's acceptable, basically, is what I'd say. So let's come over here to our second tomfoolery video. And now we are going to use a different effect. So that time we used Luminance Key. This time we're going to use Hue and RGB Key. So I'm going to hold down my left mouse button. I'm going to drag that over there and I'm going to let go. Oh, well, Tom's mostly transparent now. But you notice over here on the Hue and RGB Key, again, it's moved us to controls and it's highlighted it for us. The color is set to red. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to set that color to black, basically. So I'm going to click here where it says color. I'm going to select black out of the list and click OK. And it still didn't really change a whole lot there, but that's because our tolerance is set way too high here. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn this down until Tom is mostly visible. And you notice as I change it, Tom gets less and less transparent. And again, you're trying to get to this balance of, you know, how transparent will Tom be, and you know how good a quality do we want here, basically, in the transparency. Now we can also up the edge softness here, and as I do that here, oh, now it's making him too transparent, so I'm going to crank that back down. In fact, what I found for Tom here is a pretty good setting is 0 in the tolerance and 2 in the edge softness, and even that is still not perfect. He still has some transparent spots, and just like before, you can use the View Matte and take a look at it. But you notice all those little black dots, and oh, you got a lot of trash around in there. So another thing that we can do is we can change the mode just like we did in the other one. What I find works for Tom better is not Hue, but RGB. And you notice as soon as I changed to RGB, a lot of those little white dots out here on the side of him, which should not be there, have gone away. So I find that for Tom particularly, these settings are, I think, the best. Tolerance is 0, edge softness is 2, and the color match is RGB. And again, you're kind of just looking for, you know, acceptable. Notice down here with Tom sitting, he has a dark shadow underneath him, and unfortunately it's made that black. And again, you can see that by turning on the the view matte. And you can try to tweak this down and maybe get rid of that. Here, maybe we can go to 1 or whatever, but it doesn't quite get rid of it. So it's just really kind of a challenge with Tom. He's a difficult bird to deal with, quite frankly, because he has so many dark features, and he's on a black background, and which we're trying to key out. But again, that's a fairly acceptable Tom right there. 0 on this guy on tolerance, 1 or 2 on edge softness. Color match by RGB I find is a little bit better than the other option, which is Hue. And so that's pretty good there. And again, most people are never going to notice those little transparent areas, especially if the background you're using is fairly dark anyway. We've got a little bit of problem there when Tom squats down and his shadow there underneath him is just not quite right. But we kind of have similar problems over here, just in different places basically. We might have a little bit better keying going on over here with our first example, which is our Luminance Key, as opposed to our second example here, which is our Hue and Rgb Key. But anyway, that's it. Those are a couple of more keying effects that you can use in HitFilm Express, which is again the free version, and you just have to play around with it. I mean, maybe the Luminance Key works best here for Tom with these settings, but if you've got some sort of dancing skeletons or whatever on a black background, you may have to play around between these two different ones. RGB, Luminance Key. Again, you can also try the demult and the 2 blend effects, which are add and screen. So that's basically kind of our black background toolkit, if you will. So that's it for this video. I certainly hope that this solves Robert's problem. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.